Everyone, welcome to this episode. I have a special guest, Marcus Philly. Really excited to have him here. And many of you that follow me probably know who he is. And if you don't, he has a great story. And so, not only being a CrossFit Games athlete, but what I really truly admired is that he has found what he thinks is now balance. And he is the owner of Functional Bodybuilding, and I know he has a lot of value to add, and so I'm excited to have him on. So welcome, Marcus.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the very warm and complimentary introduction.
Absolutely. So if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about yourself, just for your background, your schooling, I saw was biology, which is very interesting. I like biology, and just a little bit about your background.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, in terms of like relevant to my career now, I did go to the University of California, Berkeley. So I was a Cal grad and studied molecular cell biology, was a pre-med, took the MCATs, applied to medical school, went to medical school for 14, 16 months before taking a leave of absence, which was basically the safest way I could drop out of school, give myself a choice or an opportunity to come back should the main thing that I wanted to do fall through. And the main thing I really wanted to do was become a health and fitness professional. And so I moved back home, and after a period of a couple months of basically feeling bad about my life choices, I found myself coaching at a CrossFit gym. And that was just my introduction to paid fitness coaching, because I had been doing fitness coaching for a long time up until that point. Just very much the fit friend or family member that people trusted to just give them some advice. And this became like my formal, opportunity to, exchange my knowledge and time for, money and create a career out of health and fitness. And what started as just coaching group CrossFit classes turned into personal training, owning a CrossFit gym, working with individual clients remotely, building an online remote coaching company, and then ultimately starting this brand, which is Functional Bodybuilding now, which is an online fitness, business. It's truly a business. We have employees, we've got a team, we have marketing, we have operations, we have content, media, we write programs, and we service over 12,000 people worldwide, and touched a lot of lives over the years. And so I get to do, what I always dreamt of doing, which was like teach people to eat, move, and be healthy, and try and avoid disease. I just went the medical school route as a detour, I suppose.
Oh, wow. Okay, so the medical school, that was originally your passion, was to help other people, and that was probably going to be the path that would make you enough revenue to live a life, and then made a shift.
More or less, yeah, exactly.
Okay. I love that. And so what was the passion around CrossFit versus anything else? Like your biggest focus?
Yeah, that's a great question. Why CrossFit? Many people over the course and the history of CrossFit, their first exposure to training was CrossFit. I say that with respect, but a lot of people had done exercise for years, and then they showed up to CrossFit and they started to train. And the difference being that now they're lifting weights, now they're pushing really high levels of intensity, which is, those two things are generally absent from most people's exercise routines. And that's not a knock at people's exercise routines. It's just that, I certainly believe in resistance training as a foundation for health, and then pushing hard in the gym and what you do as like the sauce, the secret sauce. And so, but my experience prior to CrossFit was pretty robust. Like before I ever stepped foot in a CrossFit gym, I had a good, at least 7 years of what I would call training experience, which I had been in weight rooms. I had gotten collegiate strength conditioning. I had played on high level sports teams where you train very hard with your teammates to try and win championships. I knew what hard work felt like. I craved hard work. I looked and explored for different ways to do fitness, and CrossFit was just the next thing that kind of popped up onto my radar. And because I was a consumer of everything that I could get my hands on, I was one of the early adopters of CrossFit. I wasn't the first, it really kind of caught online activity in like 2006. Really, it started to grow in 2006, 2007. And then 2008 was when they hosted the first, or I guess 2007, when they hosted the first CrossFit Games, like a backyard Olympics type of thing. And I became aware of CrossFit in 2008. So I did my first CrossFit workouts then. And I was just captivated by the the blend of disciplines, right? Where it's like up until that point, training and fitness was very segmented. It was, especially as an athlete, you would go and do weight training, you would go and do plyometric drills, you would go and do track workouts, you would partition the different fitness traits that you wanted to develop. But nobody was doing lift weight, sprint, jump on a box, come back. This was new. And, new is a great way to get people's attention.
Sure.
And so new got my attention, and something new that was also extremely humbling and challenging got my attention even more, because and not everybody is like this, but I experienced something hard at that stage of my life. And I was like, oh, I got to do more of this. I remember, for example, I picked up it was like college, and I was a soccer player, goalkeeper, power athlete, lifted weights, did sprinting, never really was an endurance person, but I got infatuated with like the Tour de France. I would watch stages I was really into, like, it was Lance Armstrong heyday, and I was just into it. So I was like, I'm going to pick up a bike and I'm going to go and pedal up into the hills of Berkeley, which are, pretty steep. Yeah. So I get on this, not great road bike, and I start riding up this hill. And I kid you not, like, I'm with my friend, and I have to get off and walk my bike up this hill like several times because I'm so gassed, and I'm just so like, and I'm like, I can't be I can't be this bad at this. I have to get better at this. And that was kind of my experience with CrossFit. Was like, my first workout, I crushed it. I loved it. And I was like, oh, this is fun. My second workout, I did horrible. My third workout, it was even worse. And I was like, how are these guys? And I was focusing on the men, but there were also women that were just crushing stuff that they had no business doing that well with. And I was like, how do I get better at this? So CrossFit just like piqued my curiosity, which got me involved in it early on for my own training and my own physical development. But within a span of a year, from the moment I did my first CrossFit workout to the moment I was like in medical school at that point, CrossFit took it started this very vertical, like almost exponential growth curve, where people around the world, but particularly in the United States and North America, were just banging down on the doors of CrossFit gyms to come and try training. And I was like, holy smokes, like, everybody wants to do CrossFit, and I want to help everybody. Yeah. This sort of young, naive, like, I'm going to change the world with, squats and fish oil. So I just jumped at the opportunity to be part of that community. And then once I was offered an opportunity to coach, because I first became a member at a gym and then they recruited me to coach, I put coaches, like, I was in medical school. I respected doctors, but to me, a fitness professional that was like teaching people, like, that was in my mind like the pinnacle of professionalism. And I was like, this is a really important opportunity I have in front of me. I can't mess this up. Wow. And I took it very seriously, where I went in and I demanded that I knew as much as I possibly could, that I knew more than everybody in the gym, that I was the source of information that people could trust. And so I continued my education, learned from people, consumed as much as I could inside and outside of the CrossFit education system, so that I could just be the best coach and have answers to the common questions that I was getting asked. And when somebody asked me, Marcus, I want you to coach me, I want to get ready for this trail race that's happening here in Marin County. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I got to go learn that. or somebody's like, hey, I want you to like teach me about a systematic approach for nutrition. It's like, well, I don't know how to do that yet. Let me go learn that. And this was just my process for the first really like 8 years of my coaching career, which is when I also simultaneously became, a top competitor in the world in the CrossFit Games. I built a pretty successful gym business. I built a very successful at the time online coaching business before online coaching was really even a thing. And then it was at that point in 2016 that I just decided, you know what? I have a brand vision and I have a coaching in a business vision that goes beyond the walls of CrossFit. I love CrossFit, but I'm going to go ahead and step away. I'm going to part ways with my business partners, and I'm going to start something that will become my vision. And I started what is now functional bodybuilding.
That's amazing. So I have a question about the two questions. One is how you said you would just go learn it. You would figure it out, nutrition, all that to help your athletes that you were coaching. What were your resources? Like, what did you do? Did you go get certifications? What was that specifically? Or was it YouTube University? I don't know.
Yeah, YouTube University was not available at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, YouTube existed, but comparatively to today, like if I was starting again, there's so much good information out there. But I approach education in much the same way that I approach it now, and the way that I impact people too is this like, who are the personalities that I resonate with out there that I can tell through online, content sharing, have a good knowledge base, so have authority and have good brand, or I resonate with a person, and then have something that they can offer me that I can actually purchase.
Wow.
That's what I do today, right? But this was 2010,
Yeah.
so almost 15 years ago.
Which I almost
What do you?
had less noise back then than there is now in the
Oh yeah, I mean it's like the information space today is like probably 10,000x what it was in 2010.
Yeah.
So in CrossFit, there were a handful of what we would deem like subject matter experts, people that had done the thing for a little bit of time. There was also an online publication called testosterone.net that became T Nation, and T Nation very much like heavily focused on, it's like a male audience, like hardcore bodybuilding, but they had a lot of good, like some of the best names in the fitness industry today got their start there. So John Berardi, who's the founder of Precision Nutrition, was one of the early contributors to T Nation. Brett Contreras, who's the glute guy, was an early contributor there. Dan John, Charles Poliquin, Paul Chek, like big names that anybody that's been in the industry for a long time know. Those were like early publishers, or sorry, authors on the website. So I was reading that, as well as a couple of like the key people in the CrossFit space that I could tell had long fitness experience and professional experience before CrossFit. Another one named James Fitzgerald. And so I basically was just like, these guys know things that I don't know. They're willing to share information, whether it's a course, articles. And so I just dove into online education and seminars. So I would go and fly down to San Diego. I would fly out to Arizona. I would go to these seminars, learn, get certifications, but really it's just the knowledge that matters, because nobody really cares that you got a certification, right? More and more so today. Yeah. And so that was where I just like started to fill gaps in my knowledge.
Wow. And then go from what you said about your transition to starting the business. So I had to say, back when you did it, I think it was said 2010 it was when you started. For your growth, what made you make the leap first to do that, to do your own business? Because that's really difficult and challenging and scary and all the things, right? And then online is even scarier in that space back then, where now everyone's doing it.
Yeah, it was very organic. It was not like premeditated. I didn't come up with a business plan. Nothing. I didn't really think about much of this.
Wow.
When I was in the CrossFit gym, it was a strange business model for a lot of people. It was basically open up a gym, which is more or less a garage. Most people didn't put a lot of It was kind of like the CrossFit box was sort of like a brand stamp. It was like, we don't need fancy gyms. We just need, rusty, dirty barbells and mismatching plates, and we can get elite fitness. Um, but I was coaching in one of these spaces, and then the sort of like growth curve in CrossFit was coach classes, you know, coach more classes, people like you, maybe open up your own gym so that you could coach more of the classes and then maybe get some of the back end, profits.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was just one of the top coaches at the gym. The owners of the gym were looking to expand and open up other locations. I partnered with them to open up a location in my hometown, which felt like it just felt like it didn't feel like some big move or some big change. It was just like, okay, now I get to do more of what I'm already doing. I invested my own money to like start the gym, which was not a huge capital investment. It was like $60,000. Kind of got the thing up and running, got the equipment we needed, and we were break even in the first month in terms of like covering overhead and coach costs, because we just got like 70 members in the first 3 weeks. It was like the golden age of CrossFit, where you just didn't have to do any marketing. You didn't have to do any advertising. People just literally walked in the door every single week. It was wild. And then, so that was my first business. But then 6 years later, when I left that business, I had already started an additional business, which was also, again, very organic. So I had social media. I was early adopter in social media platforms. I was posting a blog of my fitness practice journey and my ideas and my personal methods, which then translated into Facebook posts that linked to my blog. And then Facebook was like, gave rise to Instagram. And so it was like, okay, short form posts on Instagram, I can kind of share this in a much more frictionless way. So I started to build an Instagram following, and it didn't hurt that I was also a CrossFit, pseudo CrossFit celebrity. People knew me because I was doing well at the CrossFit Games. So I had attention there.
Yep.
And then simultaneously, I had a fitness coach, but he lived in Arizona. So I was working remotely with a coach who was writing fitness training programs for me, and we were consulting on a monthly basis. And so that was like early days of online coaching. And so I was like, okay, well, this is a thing, a model. I use it and I'm successful with it. And then I would get customers at my gym who wanted personal coaching. And so I would kind of coach them with that same model. And then I started getting inbound requests through DMs, through social media. Hey, would you coach me? And my first clients were in Australia, were in Pittsburgh, were in other states. And I just rolled out the same model that I was getting. And so
Wild. What year was that?
my first online client, I think, hired me in 2012.
Wow.
And by the time 2016 rolled around, I had probably 60 online clients
Wow.
that were, at the time, I think my price point was like $250, $260, something like that.
Yeah.
But that's a decent amount of revenue that was just mine. It wasn't like part of the gym. It was just my revenue, it was my business. And so when I walked away from the CrossFit gym, yes, I wasn't coaching classes. I wasn't getting my hourly fees. I wasn't getting management fees, and I wasn't getting the profit share. But I had this remote coaching business, and I was like, okay, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to leverage that, open up a small studio, do some personal training on the side, and then ride out my non-compete until I could open up, a gym. And a gym would be, the model would change. It wouldn't be group fitness anymore. It would be more personal coaching clients to come in and do what I'm doing with them. And so that was like the leap to jump into a new business was protected by another business that started organically, which was online coaching. And then from there, a lot of things fundamentally changed in that first year of leaving the CrossFit community space, my gym, and starting my own thing, which is when, functional bodybuilding really kind of took off.
That's incredible. I just see the trajectory of everything that you did, and you did this without, did you take any business classes? It was just, this was all.
No, yeah. I mean, and truthfully, I think I got my first proper coaching in business didn't happen until 2017, and it was just like I'm completely I'm completely unaware.
Yeah.
Here, this will give you context. Like my business partner today,
Yeah.
um, in late 2016, she cold pitched me over email. Um, she said, hey, I think you have something really special going on. I'd love to help you build an online course. And I more or less refused. I was like, nope, not interested. Like, that's not what I'm about. um, and she was persistent, very persistent. And she said, well, look, at the very least, let me help you with some marketing. And I was like, what is that? Really? I had no clue what marketing even means. Like, I couldn't give you a working definition of marketing. Now, today, of course, I can. But at the time, I was like, oh, she's like, let me start an email list for you.
Mm.
And I was like, you know what I actually need? I need somebody who has technical, like, development, skills to build me a website.
Mm.
She's like, cool. I'll help you with that, but let me start this email list for you and let me help you nurture it. And let's get some, let's see if we can use that to our advantage later on.
All
And
right.
I'm like, go ahead, like, knock yourself out. Get an email list going. I don't really care. Just waste your time. Well, fast forward 6 months, and we did a launch of an online program together. And in 7 days, we opened up registration for 7 days. And I think we sold, I want to say we did $60,000 in
Oh my gosh.
cash collected in 7 days, only from email marketing and a few like organic social media posts.
Unreal.
Unreal. And I was just like,
You're like,
whoa.
joke, this chick, whatever she wants.
Exactly. I was like, that's close to how much I can make from virtual coaching or remote coaching in 6 months. And we just did that in 7 days. So
Oh my
it
God.
was an eye opener for sure.
Yep.
But again, more of the story is to just paint context around like my limited understanding of business, and that was also what was so, we all look back and it's like all these CrossFit gyms were open and nobody knew a thing about business. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't need to know anything. We just needed to know how to coach a class, coach well, and people just filled up our gyms. We didn't really have to do much.
But you had no idea like what was to come when all of the, fitness influencers and all the noise and everything, right? So by having that as a foundation, a strong foundation, plus you being in the games, right? All that is amazing. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, so much luck and so much good timing. So, my I can separate like that. I maybe I had skills and I had abilities, but I also got lucky, really lucky.
Well, I feel like when you're here for a reason, there's a purpose for you, right? The universe aligns, things align so that it happens, right? She found you for a reason. I guess she knew she wanted to partner with you at some point. There was some synergy.
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, she was trying to land her dream client, which was like
So cool.
somebody in the fitness space, somebody who was, had an audience already, but hadn't really capitalized on, what their brand value was. And then she really, ultimately started to align with, the mission and the values of functional bodybuilding. Yeah, I mean, she's been with me now for almost 10 years.
That's amazing. And she's helped you build the team. Did you have a bigger team? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She's been a part of every step of it.
Unbelievable. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's inspiring. I want to going back to how this all happened. Where for you did the confidence come from? Because I work with a lot of people and coaching them like their business coaching, and a lot of them struggle with confidence. And it sounds like no matter what, like you knew your purpose, your passion, your mission, and so there wasn't really. I'm sure there were some hiccups where you question yourself, but where did that come from?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll start by saying like when I first stepped foot into like a gym to coach people, I had very limited confidence. I did not remember I had said that like fitness professionals were the pinnacle in my mind of like healthcare practitioners.
Yeah.
And I was really unsure if I could do the thing. I mean, I remember my first day coaching the first group class that I coached. I don't think I slept more than an hour the night before. I was just so nervous. So, I was just building this thing up in my head. And the confidence from there forward came with just like I had I like I like a lot about what Alex Hormozy talks about. He's a business coach
Sure.
who came up in the fitness space, but something he says is like do something long enough and that you accumulate so many repetitions and undeniable proof that like you're as good as you are. It's like it just doesn't come from nothing. We don't psych ourselves up. We build confidence by doing reps and getting reps in. And so, at 20, I think I was 24 when I did my first, 23 or 24 when I did my first CrossFit coach, session. I was young. I didn't have many things that were holding me back in life or tying me down. I could pour every ounce of my energy into this, pursuit and building my skills as a CrossFit or a fitness professional and an athlete simultaneously. And so I just poured like for the next 7 years, I just poured everything I had into it. It was just all I did. And so that was what helped me build that confidence. And then it was like, well, how'd you get so good on camera? It's like, well, I just put in lots and lots of reps, and so it's and the confidence is not just from putting in the reps, it's from seeing the impact it has on people. So it's like, okay, yeah, which was which the feedback loop when I coached people in the gym was immediate, and that was important for me. A lot of coaches are like, I want to just people getting into the fitness space, like, hey, I want to do online fitness coaching. And I'm like, well, have you coached people in person before? And they're like, no, I haven't. And I'm like, wow, you can do it, but like, man, it's going to be a very slow feedback loop. It's going to be very hard for you to know what about you is impactful, is a skill, is something that people resonate with. Because like you're just talking to a camera, you don't know until somebody like maybe hits the heart button on your post. Like, did they even like this thing? Whereas like I'm in the gym coaching people every day, seeing transformations, seeing changes, both physically, but also mentally and emotionally in people, them pouring their hearts out to me about how much this is changing their lives. And like, that just, yeah, not only does it like feed confidence, but it really feeds like purpose. It's like, oh, I know I'm here. Like a year ago, I was, in the library studying medical school and killing myself to try and hopefully one day make a difference 8 years later after my training in people's lives. Here I'm getting this immediate feedback loop and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, or at least, this is one thing that I can do and make an impact.
Yeah, making the impact and the impact that you have on each individual and all the people in their world, right? Their families, their significant others, their kids, like by them being fit and healthy, being able to run around with them. There's just so much. I feel like that you're impacting not just that one person, you're impacting so many more people. I just think a lot of people just do struggle with that, right? If you're in you're in school, it's this is the path that you need to go, and to make that decision is really hard. Did you have anyone in your life that was telling you to not move forward with that and stay in school? I would assume yes, but
Yeah, it was not like don't do this. It was more like, huh, that seems really risky.
yeah.
Like, are you sure you're doing it for the right reasons? Um, I mean, I kept a small circle then. Like I didn't, I wasn't publicly sharing like these challenges I was going through,
Or
because I was like, you know, at the deepest, darkest, you know, pit of depression and despair in medical school, just feeling like this isn't really what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I don't feel a drive and a purpose here. And So sharing that with my family, sharing that with my parents, and them just like really being caring deeply about my mental health,
Yeah.
seeing me kind of backslide a lot in life. Um, but also, coming from a family of healthcare practitioners, my dad's a physician. It's like,
Okay.
he had a horrendous first year of medical school too, one that, most people would have quit, but he stuck it out and then created this great life for himself. And then one that, in a career he was really proud of. So he was there to sort of not like, don't do this, but like, are you sure? Like, hey, this can be hard. Like, it's going to get better. Like,
Okay.
don't don't throw it in yet. And it was hard to like make that decision because I could see very clearly, like, yes, this is hard for a lot of people. Like, and the people that do push through can have great careers and they can feel, very purposeful in their work. But ultimately it was just like, you know, people reach a breaking point where like either something changes, um, and there's a possibility that life gets better, or nothing changes and it's going to just continue to be really, really unfulfilling life. And I was at that point. Um, and so, fortunately, it was like I said at the beginning, it's like I took a leave of absence from medical school, and they said, yes, you can enroll next year for your second year of medical school if you'd like. You have that option. So I really, that softened the decision. Although,
Is that more
so
for your parents or more for you? You kind of just wanted that as a backup.
it was more of like, do I just quit and say I'm never coming back, or do I just leave the door open in case?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's, either way, I knew I had a time, like it was the time the stopwatch started and I had to go and do something and uh give myself that belief that like, hey, I made the right decision. Um and I would say it was probably like 4 months later. I just remember having like a very specific drive in the car where I was like, okay, like I'm doing it. This is it. I did it. I did the right thing. I don't need to ever look back. Of course, I wasn't making enough money yet to like really say that, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out.
Yeah.
I will figure this out, and I don't care if I live very humbly for the rest of my life. Like I don't need a lot. I just need these things, and I need to feel purpose in what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like that is a skill set that everyone needs is the skill set in figuring it out. Because if you could figure it out and you have faith in yourself that you can, everything that you want, right? Everything that's in front of you, it can happen, the purpose, the passion, the mission. So you were saying in that time, and I'm sure there's a time after. I actually wanted to mention because as a pretty much, I'm a brand new business owner, solopreneur as of May of this year, and what I see is a lot of projection from people outside, say asking like, "Oh my gosh, is it really hard?" And my business actually took off. It did really really well from right from the start, and I'm super blessed about that. But did you have any people projecting on you like their fears of making a move? Because I see that a lot with people, unfortunately. Because I know they have a purpose, they have a drive, but by projecting that to you and say, "Ooh, it's going to be really hard. Are you sure you want to take that risk?" kind of takes it off of them to make a risk. I'm just curious if you've seen that.
Yeah, I saw that a little bit during that time. I had a few classmates at medical school that were like, the ones that I was really close to just like supported me and however it was going to make me happy. And then there were some that were just like, I think that they were asking their own questions of themselves. Like, is this right for me? And, seeing me take that leap, it like really put this, it shined a spotlight on their own insecurities and fears. And, I would get like, I don't think this is the right decision. I don't think you're doing the right thing. And then and then periodically I'd like run into people from high school that, knew me as, I had this sort of like, I think I had built up this like identity of like best student, high achiever,
Okay.
destined for bigger things, which,
Yeah.
at that time was like advanced degrees, the, you know, uh, not entrepreneurship, but like go and become a medical professional, go become a lawyer, go and become, something that has held a lot of weight and status rather.
Sure.
And so, like having a few of those conversations back in my hometown when I had left medical school, it was like, "Hey, how you doing? Like, what are you up to?" I'm like, "Yeah, I dropped out of medical school. I'm coaching fitness." They're like, "What the hell happened to you?" Like, I thought you were the guy. Like,
Yeah,
you're just, you're just like the rest of us.
you're
Like,
just like the rest of us. That's funny.
yeah. Which was like, that was like, and that was growth for me as a person. Was like my ego and my identity was wrapped up in this construct of like,
Mm,
you are the best because you have achieved these things in life. You've achieved perfect scores, perfect grades, top university, hardest degree program, one of the hardest degree programs at the university, scored high on the MCAT. You got into great medical schools. You had options. You're top of your med school class. Like you're all these things. Um, and also a great student athlete, played Division I college sports. And yeah, I got to the end of college and I was actually really craving for a number of reasons. And this is the kind of like what you mentioned before we sort of hit record, but like the spiritual journey and the spiritual quest that I went on was like, who am I without all of these labels? And I spent 2 years after college exploring that before I went to medical school. So I took kind of 2 gap years.
okay.
And in that time, I think the work I did in those 2 years was pretty instrumental in giving me the strength to leave medical school when I did and to face those conversations with people that were like, whoa, like you're a degenerate. Like you dropped out. Like what are you now? Like you're coaching group CrossFit classes. Like, and I knew enough about myself at the time to be okay with that, to be like,
Mm,
yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. And I feel really proud of it. Um, and it's okay. Like I don't need those labels to be a good person, to be happy, um, and to create meaning and value for people.
that's incredible. So when you took those gap years, what was it about this kind of spiritual journey that you did? I'm because I'm finding it now working with a lot of high achievers, that is literally most times the missing link, right? If they get the fitness part in addition and they take care of their health, the missing link is spirituality. And that was for me too, just as last year that happened. I think it was a missing piece. So what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it started when I was young, actually. I had two polar opposite parents. I had the dad um, who many of my traits kind of were modeled after. It was like type A, very, very capable of focusing on a single outcome and just pouring all of his energy into it. Um, and then I had my mom who was, you know, I don't, she never graduated college. She, um, was a hippie in this, in the 70s, like, very alternative thinking in a lot of ways. Like she always had a spiritual practice of some sort and she would connect with these different spiritual groups when I was in junior high and high school. And she would introduce me to some things here and there. And um,
Did you
then
accept, reject them?
I was very open to it. I was like, this is cool. Like, and and then during that time, like she, I remember coming back. So first after college, it was just about, I need an escape. I can't just keep plugging along on this train that is like college, med school, like never take a break.
Yeah.
So I took a break. Um, it was supposed to be a year. And that break started with me traveling, doing some international travel, sort of getting out of, what I knew and just go explore a bit, which was scary. And I almost pulled the plug on that because I was like, oh, this is too scary. Like, I kind of landed my feet, softly in another English speaking country in Australia and did the backpacking thing at 21 years old, and then kind of took the next leap, which is like, oh, like I'm meeting all these people, these cool people, and they've all just come from Thailand. So maybe I should go to Thailand. Um, and so I went to Thailand, which, again, also somewhat of a soft entry. It's like a very backpacker, young 20-year-old, friendly culture to go and just party and just do different stuff. Then I went to a couple more countries in Southeast Asia, and I was just like totally captivated by this concept of like explore cultures, meet people that have no idea who I am. Like literally, it's like
Uh,
I gotta make friends and like establish relationships without labels. Like, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like, oh, like no one's asking me like, hey, where'd you go to college? Like, what's your degree? Are you like? They didn't give a shit. And what they cared about was like, are you, fun to be around? Are you open minded?
I love it.
Like, are you here for a good time? Like, can we have good conversation? And yeah, so like that experience like was my first fundamental shift. And then I came home and back to the States, and my mom was plugged into this spiritual group um, that hosted these like, intensive week long or multiple day retreats. And, she invited me to go with her to one of them. And I was like, absolutely, let's do it. And so, this is kind of like my first introduction to like meditation,
Yeah.
mindfulness work. And there was a like a young adult group within that, like other kids in their late teens, early 20s, bonded with them. And I was like, okay, this felt good. This felt like it kind of pried open some stuff inside of me. I want to engage in more of these. So I went to several more of them, and it culminated in like a summer uh month long, I think it was like a month long or 3 week long intensive, retreat, which was called like the Awakening Souls Retreat for like young adults, hosted by the same spiritual group. We were in the mountains of Colorado, and we just camped and you know, did all the things: ecstatic dance, meditation, breath work, being in nature, silent days, you name it, like practices that just get you to experience yourself in new ways. And that became anchored in me. And so I did more of that, then went back to Southeast Asia during my 2 year gap and stayed for 4 months this time, and really just like, deepened this connection to myself and to, just like more cultural exposure, meeting different people, and like building this new level of confidence in myself of like, yeah, like there's so much more to this life than achieving
Yeah.
in the American education system.
Which
And
like wild that you have that high achiever and and being that young felt okay with the spiritual like
yeah,
calmness, like being in nature. You didn't fight it at all?
I think the fighting was in those early spiritual retreats that I went to
Yeah.
was like immense discomfort, just like even just like sitting for like an hour meditating was just like, oh my God, like
Excruciating.
um anybody that's listening to this that has been on a spiritual retreat, it's a pretty it's a pretty predictable path. You go in with all these like great intentions and like this is exciting and I want to like grow, but then they force you into very uncomfortable spaces, whether it be like don't talk for the next 24 hours, or we're going to fast today, there's no food, or you're going to have to sit in this uncomfortable position, and you're going to have to like just be silent and just you know be with your thoughts. And it usually is, it's designed to stir up all the stuff that you're not paying attention to, and it creates a pain, and it creates like a release. Like you have to face this stuff that's in you, emotional, psychological, spiritual turmoil. And for some people, it's physical turmoil. They just like, you maybe sit for an hour and I feel pain in every part of my body, like, because they're just immobile or they're unfit, they're poorly conditioned. You have that you reach that breaking point, you break through it, you have a release, a massive release, and who's there to welcome you into this new space of like acceptance? It's this beautiful spiritual community. And then it's like, so like days 1 are like you're excited, days 2 and 3 you're just like in the pain, and then days 4 and 5 you're just like, I'm ecstatic, and then they're like, sign up for the next one. And that's like it's a business model. Like Tony Robbins has been doing it for friggin' ever, and he's made $billions, right? And so yeah, talk about resistance. Like I had lots of resistance, and even resistance when I traveled. Like, it might take. There were times where I was like, "What the hell am I doing out here in the middle of the jungle in Laos?" Like
Yeah.
no one's around. I'm sick. I got diarrhea for 3 days. Like I'm at the time there was no mobile devices. It was like internet cafes. I could call nobody. I didn't have a phone to scroll. I'm just like, what am I doing? And honestly, having like those really uncomfortable and sometimes scary, like I had some really, sketchy moments when I was overseas. Times where like I look back and I made very poor decisions and did not put myself in like the safest or healthiest, place. And, but like those are growth opportunities, and they were for me. And so it's like 2 years of doing that, more or less, where it's like I created a very fulfilling, exploratory lifestyle that wasn't academic. It wasn't status related. It wasn't any of these things. It was just me being me. And I'm very fortunate that I had the opportunity to do it, and I had the support of my parents to a great degree. And then I enter medical school after those 2 years with this like, I'm going to do it differently. I'm not going to do it like I did in the past. And old habits, they are hard to erase. Like it was 2 months into medical school, and I was right back to the same, like almost like an accelerated, enhanced version of the guy I was in college, where it was like the stakes are higher now. Like this is medical school, it's harder. There's a lot more information to process. It's like I used to tell people, it was like I took the 10 hardest courses I took in college, and over the course of 3 years, and compress them into 6 months, and that's your first 6 months at medical school. And then every 6 months after that feels like that. And I was just like, oh, I only know one way to get through this. And it's to just kind of shut off to the rest of the world, focus on this very narrow thing. And as my world sort of became this tunnel vision back to just being the best student that I could be, I now had this different experience of life where I was like, whoa,
I don't like this.
I'm sacrificing so much for this one thing that I don't even feel deeply purpose driven by. Is this worth it? And, the story unfolds to the point where I decided it's not worth it. And then it launched me down the next chapter of my life.
That's a pretty incredible. So you had that, such two different experiences, but to be able to compare that and say, this life is not fulfilling. This isn't worth it. This isn't what life is about. Like I feel so many people don't know what that's like, and don't have the fortune of experiencing that. But wow, that makes a lot more sense now, coming back to that and going, okay, this is not aligned, right? It's not aligned with the person that you really are, the person you want to be. That's wild. So was there a moment during that time, or just, I do want to ask like a part, because there seems like there must have been so many challenging times during your life, whether it's starting the business, whether it's the struggles, during the games, right? Training for sports, being an athlete. What was one really, really challenging moment that you feel like you had that was really like maybe would stand out for you as like your biggest breakthrough, a challenge, and how you overcame it?
Mm-hmm.
Probably so many, but just one first one that stands out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the medical school thing was a pivotal, life-defining moment for me. What I walked away from that believing in my heart, and it took a couple years, was that, you can feel incredibly stuck in life. you can feel like you're trapped. You can feel like you have no exit. You have no alternative. And there often is one that you just can't see yet. Um, and so fast forward, the next big life-changing decision happened around my business, my first business, which was the CrossFit gym. I poured 5, 6 years into building that community, into helping build that brand, which was not my brand. It was my business partner's brand. It was like they had their name on the wall on the business, and it was sort of a decision to say like, okay, well, I have to walk. If the way the business agreements were set, it was like the only opportunity I have to evolve is to walk away from this and to start over. And it was such a hard position to find myself in that I basically delayed that for 2 years. I knew that was probably where this was going, but with as much as was going on in my life as a competitive athlete in CrossFit, and I was still making, I was still climbing those ranks, and it was still an important part of my life. I felt like, okay, maybe this isn't the time to like rattle the cage and start something new. This is safer to stay. As painful as it is to stay, it's safer to stay than to leave. But once I had retired, or more or less like reached my end of my CrossFit career, I didn't have that as a thing holding me back anymore. And I had to really decide, like, am I going to just leave this behind, what I worked so hard for, and will I be able to do it again? And, I think my experience in medical school and the confidence that I had built, that we talked about over the course of 6, 7 years of being in the fitness space and coaching, just gave me enough self-belief to say, okay, yeah, I can do this thing. And, it happened at the right time, and I'm thankful it happened the way it did. Because it ultimately was like, the beginning of a very, important chapter in my life, starting my own business that became functional bodybuilding. And it was also the start of when we had our first child. So it was like the beginning of a family. Wow. And so a lot of things happened around 2016, 2017 that, really have paved the way for the last decade. And now it's like, okay, we're coming up on the 10-year mark of that decision. And, what is the next big chapter look like for me? And I think that's where I'm thinking, about the future of this business, the future of, how I'm going to navigate separating myself from the online fitness space. Not like not going to do fitness. Of course I'm going to do fitness, but, the online fitness space it's a very different place than it was 5 years ago, and certainly 10 years ago. And I think it's led to a lot of people not trusting, the fitness industry. There's an information overwhelm and a lack of action and a lack of, belief that people feel in themselves to actually make change, positive change. And I don't want to be a part of the system that makes people doubt themselves, makes people get stuck in inaction because there's too much coming at them. I want to promote, people having sort of like a belief in themselves that they can do hard things, that they can change the course of their health, that they can take control of their health again. And that's, not going to happen by, trying to fight the millions of fitness influencers on there to get the most viral video of how to do chest exercises.
Oh my God, that's what drives me crazy. That's like a viral video for what? So you get a bunch of followers and you make no money. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. So is that transition for you look a little bit more like in person, or are you just trying to figure that out?
No, it's more about just brand positioning. Yeah. It's about the type of content that we put out.
Your content is great, by the way. I see it everywhere on Facebook too, and it's really, really great. Really.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And, what does great content look like? I think more and more it's going to look like things that really tap into people's like core emotional obstacles, rather than like I can package up information better than the next person so that you learn, that calories matter, or that, eating high protein is better for you, or that, exercising in this training split is better than this one, right? Because like that's what people are fighting for. And now it's like, okay, like we know that, and people are still not taking action. So
Yeah.
it's like, hey, like let's focus on content that really speaks to that.
Yeah. And I love what you also said when you were going back to when we were talking about like you being a high achiever and labels. And I think that is so important that I mean, it seems like through your spiritual journey, through so many other things of the business, and now being able to look at what's your next, 20 years or 10 years look like, the fact that dropping those labels, I think, is what's so healthy and which is so hard for people that are high achievers, right? And so when you figure that, I mean, I can only imagine just like everyone knowing you for CrossFit Games, right? And just dropping that label, like I'm Marcus, I'm a person, I'm a father, I'm a husband, right? I'm so different. I'm not just that one label. But looking at what's that going to be for you next. So I do want to ask you though, I'm very, very curious about this because I know a lot of people struggle with it. You're talking about a lot of information that's coming at people, and whether it's the noise of fitness and nutrition, et cetera. But you talk a lot about in fitness and burnout, right? And burnout, like, and I personally am facing a little bit of it, trying to figure it out. I do CrossFit, 4 days, 5 days a week. And now I'm like, I think I'm in a place in my life at 45 that I need to like dial it back a little and do just more strength.
Well,
But
you need to run more functional bodybuilding in your life.
I signed up for it like a month ago, and I was like, I'm just gonna talk to you about it out offline and be like, what should I do?
Oh, I got thoughts.
So I'll probably gladly take the recommendation because I'm like, I love it so much, right? But I'm a high achiever, competitive, so it's really hard for me to switch it off. But for people that are struggling with just burnout overall, not only with just their fitness and working out too hard, what about people that are just like facing burnout at work? And how do they incorporate just some strategies without overwhelm? If you want to give that advice.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the actionable steps that each person needs to take are going to look very different,
Love that.
because um again, another like hormozy, hormosiism is like burnout is not from doing too much.
Yeah.
Burnout is from doing a lot and not seeing results.
Mm, I like that.
I think that is fundamentally it. And the results, you get to define what the result that matters to you is. And, it's like, I'm here to lose weight, and you're training CrossFit 5 days a week and you're losing weight. And then 2 years later, your weight plateaus or you start to add weight back on and you're training 5 days a week. And you're like, oh my God, this is not working. I got to add something else in. And the weight
That's reading my mind.
yeah, the weight just keeps going up. Yeah, okay. And then you're like, fuck, I'm burnt out on this. It's like, are you? Because like when you were losing weight and doing the same thing, like you were feeling great.
Yeah.
And now you're not, because the work is not rewarding in that it's not moving the needle on the
Mm.
outcome that you're chasing. And that's what entrepreneurs face. It's like, I have a friend who had a fitness equipment company.
Yeah.
And for the first 3 to 5 years, this company just grew and grew and grew. It was just a fantastic product, fantastic marketing, branding, and an audience that was really wanting it, and
Wow.
grew to a very high valuation. And then the competitors came in, and the space got saturated, and there were a lot more options and a lot more people making, cheaper products outside the US, like competing with him in a way that really made the business struggle. And so then 2 more years of putting in the same amount of energy, the same amount of work, but the valuation and revenue dropping, uh, he decided to sell.
Mm.
And he sold because he was burned out and he didn't want to keep grinding through it. And it was like, okay, is it because he's doing too much, or is it because he's doing so much and the results aren't coming in? And that's what I face in this business is like, yeah, we get burned out. Me and my partner, we get burned out because it's harder to acquire customers in an online digital, fitness products, because the space since 2020, when COVID hit, has gotten, 100 to 1,000x more competitive. And so, yeah, how do you get eyeballs? How do you get people to pay attention? How do you stand out? And so back to the question, it's like someone's facing burnout. Um, I think it's important to start by just looking at what you're measuring as success. Like what matters to you? What matters to you beyond? And this is like when that burnout starts to bleed into other parts of your life too. So like you're working hard, now you need to work harder in your business to achieve the same results. Well, when you work harder to achieve the same results in business, you cannot manufacture more time.
Yeah.
The time that you're going to put in has to come from somewhere else. Where is it going to pull from? Well, it's going to pull from your personal self-care. It's going to pull from your time with your family. It's going to pull from your relationships. It's going to pull from your sleep. It's going to pull from these areas that are what make you fulfilled and maybe like, yes, business success and money and make you feel successful, fulfilled. It's important. But you also have these other metrics, right? And so it's like, I'll stick to a fitness example. When people are training and at the stage of life that you're like where you're at in life, right? With your training, it's like, I feel burned out. It's like, okay, well, when I peel that back for most people that are in your shoes that are done CrossFit and they're doing a lot of CrossFit and they're feeling like I got to dial it back, oftentimes they start to feel these areas of their life like they're like, I don't have a lot of energy anymore. My joints are starting to hurt. I'm tired. Like I need to take more naps. Like uh, when it's time to connect with my friends and family in the afternoon, I don't have as much to give to that. And I go back like, well, why did you start your fitness journey in the first place? I wanted to look better. I want to feel good. I want to feel energetic. I want to feel strong, like one of those things, right? Generally, or I want to like get over some pain that I had. It's like, okay, you started this thing to solve that problem. You solved it one way for a while and you felt great about it. Fast forward several years, you're at a new stage of life. That solution that you were using isn't working anymore, as evidenced by all of these other things that you wanted don't feel good. Yeah. All right. So why do you feel like once you really acknowledge that, like I did the thing to achieve this, these are gone, and I'm trying to do more of this. Yeah. That's fundamentally just not going to lead to a better outcome. So it's acknowledge that, really own that, and then say, okay, just because this is how I've done it in the past doesn't mean it's how I have to do it now. And there's other ways. There's another way to pivot your business. There's another way to pivot your marketing. There's another way to pivot your fitness approach. There's another way to pivot your diet. Like, there are other ways. And that's when you have to open up your eyes and just see, okay, who out there in the space is doing it, achieving the results that I want, but they're doing it in a different way. And then educate yourself on how they're doing it. Get mentorship, get guidance, follow a different path.
Yeah.
Hey, 5 days of CrossFit's not working for you anymore. Oh, this functional bodybuilding thing resonates with me. He's talking my language. I understand it. Marcus might have something to offer me. Let me go learn more from him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Buy my online program. Yeah. Start to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that.
And don't do it for 2 weeks.
Yeah. I guess longer than that. Yeah.
Right? Really, and then it's like, no, I want to get more personalized coaching. I want to get more mentorship. Then hire us for one-to-one coaching. Yeah. Work with us. Let us teach you this system so that you don't get into the loop of things aren't going well. I try something new. Mm-hmm. Then 6 weeks later, I run my first obstacle, going to go try something new. And then you're just hopping around doing new stuff to try and solve the problem when all you needed to do is stick for it, for 18 weeks. Mm-hmm. And you would actually feel like, oh yeah, this actually is this is a solution and I feel better and I'm out of burnout because now every ounce of effort that I put in gives me a measurable return on my investment of time and energy, and I'm seeing improvement and I feel good. And then ride that as long as you can until you hit the next burnout and you go through the process again.
I love that. I love that because it gives you proper filters to think through how you're approaching everything, not just like you said, just fitness and life in general. Like if it's not working, what are you doing differently? Yeah. And And I think a lot of times, like, I love that your approach too is very much personalized, right? Where I think a lot of the noise that we see out there is, hey, do it this way. And listen, if you, I mean, I know a lot about fitness. I've been doing that a long time. I know that these people are just basically saying, do what I do, and it works for me, but it doesn't work for everybody. It works for you. It works for your body, your composition, your genetics, your whatever, right? Your weight, your age, all those things. So that's such a great filter. I love that. When did you hit, when you started talking about burnout for you, when did that, what year was that for you where you were like, I need something else. I can't be doing like training like you were for CrossFit when you were very well versed. So,
Well, I mean, it was 2016. It's
yeah.
like I was, competed for 7 years, had a lot of success. And I knew that the next chapter of my life wasn't going to be about competing for championships and points. And, like it was going to be about raising a family,
Yeah.
really building a successful business. And um, I kind of knew like if I keep doing what I'm doing here or I've done in the past,
Yeah.
that's not going to give me a lot of space and opportunity to win in the areas that I really want to win in. And so, and I tried to fight that for a period of time. It was not like an overnight
Sure.
switch, you know. It took a long time to like go from training close to 25 hours a week to training 4 to 5 hours a week.
That's wild. That's wild. So you definitely had a vision. I feel like you've very much had, whether you said it didn't happen overnight, you always had a vision for like the next step. So knowing I can't do this and expect to be able to raise a family and pour into
Mhm.
my marriage and all that, right? You had to do something differently.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was. I had self-awareness to know that this is things might have to change.
Yeah. And for you have one child?
2 kids now.
Two kids now. And so what has changed now to spend time with them but still stay fit, stay healthy? And how do you showcase those values to them too? Because I'm sure you're doing that.
Yeah, yeah. It's again, that's also been part of the last 6 to 8 years. I mean, our kids are 6 and 8, so
Okay.
it's like, how do I peel back? What has become the like my body, my fitness level, my strength, the way I look. Like these are still values that I hold. Like they're important to me, and my relationship to my wife, my relationship to my kids, also now is like a big value. You know, building um, a business that can impact people in a positive way that I feel excited about and that I can bring, good focus and energy and leadership to. That's also important for me. The family and the business, there's those require, a certain amount of energy and work.
Yeah.
Could I give more to each one? For sure. So it becomes this game of just like, well, I can't do it all 100%. I can, or I mean, what is my 100% in each thing that doesn't detract from the other to
Sure.
the point where I'm not living up to my own value system?
Love that.
And so with fitness, it was like, okay, this is a lever that I was pulling really hard,
Mhm.
and I have room to pull back. I have room to pull back. It's been this slow pullback, and I pulled back in ways that were like I pulled way back, and it gave me more opportunity to explore other areas. And I was like, okay, maybe I pulled back too far there. I'm gonna, it's like, and in business, like, okay, I can push so much, but like, I reach a point where I'm like, ugh, like this is too much, and I always look at those as like, all right, well, I just suck at business. I need to do better because if I do better, then I can leverage my time better within business and get the same results or get better results. And so that's how I approach business. And then with family, same thing. It's like, how much time am I really, giving to my marriage and giving to my kids? And what are my feedback systems to tell me how good of a job I'm doing? Like, how many times does my wife tell me in a period of a month that she feels unseen? She feels like I'm not paying attention, that I'm missing things. Okay, that's my feedback system. Just like revenue might be my feedback system, or brand growth on
Sure.
media channels in business. And then fitness, it's like, how's my strength? How's my cardiovascular health? Like how what's my body composition like? We have measure like we have to be measurable about it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Absolutely.
do my kids like, how much do my kids push back in the morning with me? around getting ready to go to school.
Yep.
You know, how often do they want to snuggle with me? Like, it's like when they want me around and they want to feel me and they ask me to come and snuggle them. And when when my youngest daughter like kisses me on the face, like that is feedback. It's like, okay, she feels connected to me. She trusts me.
Love
She
that.
wants me around. And there were periods of time where that didn't happen. And they just went to mom for that. And I was like, okay, I'm not, they don't feel me showing up enough. Right.
Wow.
Uh, and my wife is a great, sort of observer to like kind of shine a spotlight on that.
Sure.
And not in, you know, yeah. So
That's wonderful.
hopefully that answers the question, but it's like,
Yeah.
that's the juggling act really people are doing. That's what people talk about balance. It's like, and balance doesn't mean like you're not going to do it perfectly. It's just you have to know what are your buckets.
Totally.
What do you what do you value, or what creates what is a measurement of success for you in each department? And then I believe it's like let's push as hard as we can in all parts of life until it breaks, and then pull back. It's
Mm.
like that's how I live. I live in training, I live in business, and I live in family. It's like I'm going to push hard here. I'm going to push, 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 push. And if I have like a fault, it is I push hard in business. I maybe push hard on my body, and I don't push hard enough in the family stuff. And I just have to know my tendencies. And these are all informed by a lifetime of what other people and the people that have surrounded me since I was a kid have valued about me. I was never valued as a provider and as a parent and as somebody who is creating these deep emotional connections. I was valued because I was the best athlete and I got the best grades, which then translated into like, okay, what's the best grade you can get in business? More revenue. What's the best grade you can get in fitness?
Yep.
Better body composition, more workouts. Like, okay, I know how to push in there and I've been rewarded for that. Let me keep doing that. That's buried inside of us.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's the mindset that we have it is informed by a lifetime of reinforcement. And so what is spirituality? What is spiritual awakening? It's basically like going to the heart of like, what the hell gave you this belief that this is what matters? And let's break that. And let's actually look at who you are stripped of all of that stuff. And then what is the legacy that you might have, like, and who the people, like, I don't know. Alex said it the other day, is like, what is meaning? Meaning is
Yeah.
there's no universal meaning of life. Meaning is basically broken down into one simple question. It's like, why don't you kill yourself today? Well, I'm not going to kill myself because of my kids and my wife and my loved ones and the people that run this business with me. And then maybe downstream from that, it's like, and then the customers.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not killing myself today because I'm excited to work out tomorrow. It's like, so what's most important? Well, that helps me kind of create a hierarchy of like what matters and what's meaningful. And then, if I'm not delivering on that, my kids do not care how much revenue functional bodybuilding makes outside of like they have a house and they
Yeah,
can
exactly.
buy things, right?
Yep.
Right. They don't care that daddy has a six pack, although they recognize that I don't look like other dads, but
Yeah.
outside of that, it's like, can I wrestle with them? Can I snuggle them? Do I have enough energy to like, play with them? It's like, well, when I'm pushing hard on body composition, I don't always feel energetic. I feel drained. I feel depleted. And then I'm not the most fun guy to like go and kick the ball around at the park. I'm just like, you guys have fun. I'm just going to sit here and, be hungry.
That's funny. But what you're saying makes so much sense. I was actually teaching a class yesterday morning and we were talking exactly about that, like knowing your values. And that's literally what I was saying is you need to run every decision you make in life right through your filter of your values, right? And then that's when you feel aligned and you feel like life is good. But interesting that so many people measure the business metrics, like my sales, my revenue, my everything, but not running the metrics on what's in your surrounding like the other values, the other things that are important to you, like your family, right? How am I doing? Checking in with your wife and saying, scale of 1 to 10, where am I sitting, right? And your kids, I love that because you're getting the feedback that says I'm lacking in this area or I'm doing really well in this area. And I think that's what it's all about. It's like work-life integration. I don't think there's ever any balance. I think that's a lie, especially for an entrepreneur. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah. Great.
I guess be a realist. And you spoke about legacy too, which is something so funny. That's like the values and the legacy. What would be two final questions. One would be, what advice would you give to someone in a similar scenario? Because I know there's so many people that struggle with not only from parental pressure and societal pressure that want to make a leap to be an entrepreneur, to do something different, do something that people may not agree with, and they may be younger. What advice would you give them? That's my first question. Just what advice would you give that person or that 18-year-old version of yourself? You really did it. So maybe a friend of yours at that time, or young 20s, or they're in a career and they're stuck and they're feeling burned out and they hate their job. What advice would you give them? Because there's a lot of those too.
Sure, yeah. Probably no surprise that my bias is towards like physical health. um, generally people who are, getting burned out in places that are common, it's like career burnout.
Yeah.
And so most of those individuals that I meet and consult with or talk to, um, they're pulling from that bucket pretty hard, and that doesn't leave a lot of space for their physical, and health development. Um, and so generally it's like, you're down, you're depressed, you feel overwhelmed, you feel burned out. Like, let's get this physical vessel really healthy first, and not, and let's be really honest about what that means. Not, I got to go do the whatever 75 hard or some program that's out there. No knock against 75 hard, but it's like, what can we build like a system of physical development that is going to give you back so much and get you really, really healthy. So it's like, if you're in that space and you're not resistance training 2 to 3 days a week at a minimum, if you're not walking 10,000 steps, and if you're not nourishing your body with like good protein and some, whole single ingredient whole foods majority of the time, let's just start there. Let's organize that. Let's organize your sleep. Spend 6 months fully dedicating to that, right? And make space for it. Get guidance, get a coach, get somebody to walk you through it. And then at the 6-month mark, now you have more resilience, emotional, mental resilience, because you now have a sound body. Your confidence will soar, and, your energy that you have to bring to hard decisions will be elevated. And it's like, only from that place do you want to make really big decisions about pivoting in your life, in your career life, or in your family life, right? It's like, I have a client that I worked with for a year, and at the beginning, he was having marital challenges, and probably 6 months in, it was clear that like the relationship was, they weren't going to save the relationship, and that the best move was for them to separate and to divorce. And I think, and he has shared it with me too. He's like, without these 6 months that we've spent together, I would not be in a place to handle the next phase of my life that is best for me, it's best for her, and it's best for our kids. And so here they are, like, just this month, they signed their papers, they inform their children, and next month they start, parenting from separate homes. And it's like, he feels capable of taking that on because of the foundation that he has built in his, physical health and routines and habits. That's probably one of the biggest life pivots, that somebody can make and take. And you never think that's going to happen when you get married and you have your kids. Like, that's peak, relationship, family, connection. So yeah, that's kind of the advice that I would give. It's like, hey, you're at 18 years old, or you're a young professional, and you don't know what you're doing with your life and your career. It's like, get in shape.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much the answer to everything. I mean, just saying.
It's not gonna hurt. That's right. I mean, it'll hurt in the process, but
I always, like, thank you. I thank you for giving the example about just, people going through a divorce. I mean, I think that'll resonate with a lot of people. People have asked me like a couple of years back, my best year in sales, and they're like, "Oh my God, you must have not slept, and you must have like not been able to wait." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, I ate better, I trained twice a day, I slept amazingly, and I had energy to do what most people would do in 10 hours in like 6. And so
Mhm.
I'm such a big believer, right? Take care of your vessel, take care of that first. So thank you for that example, because it's not just back in the past, it's all the things to come to use that filter. And then the final question is the legacy that you want to leave. You want people
Yeah.
say about working with you.
Yeah. I mean, I, this is my fourth mention of Alex, but it's like he doesn't really believe in legacy, and his simple like framework around that is just like, you know, once you're two generations out from when you die, like no, like within probably a week or two, like nobody will probably ever utter your name again, you know. And certainly I don't even know the first name of my great grandparents.
Mm,
Couldn't tell you. No idea. Know nothing about their life, right? And their legacy, there's no legacy that matters to me other than the fact that they gave birth to my grandparents, who then gave birth to my parents, who then gave me an opportunity to be here, right? And so um, I don't think a lot about legacy. I used to. I used to think that I was building something that would last, but I know it's not going to last. I know that functional bodybuilding, before I even die, won't be a thing. It's at some point it won't be a thing. Um, will people be training and using some of these principles for a long time to come? I'm sure, but not because I said it, because a lot of people understand and agree and believe in it too. But really, what matters to me is just like the impact that I'm making on people today. Does it make them feel better about their life, and does it allow them to go and really focus on the things that do matter to them? Because when I was in my 20s, and a lot of the people that followed me in my 20s, what mattered to them was being good at fitness. And I helped them be really good at fitness, and I was a model of being really good at fitness. Now, people don't want to be good at fitness. They want to be fit so that they can have rich and fulfilling lives. And like, am I doing that? And am I setting my kids up for an opportunity to do that for themselves, to have the emotional, regulatory skills to navigate a world that's going to be heavily automated? And do they have the do they know how to take care of themselves and build a physical vessel that is, you know, uh, can navigate life in any way that they want? And if I can just do those things, then, the rest of it is about having the most fun that I can while I'm on this planet. And, you know, business and revenue and relationships, they all feed into that. It's like, if we make more money and we can have a better lifestyle, great. Like, why not? If I can have a more efficiently run business that allows me to have some time back that I can pour into my kids and to building some, you know, memories and relationships and moments that just fill me up with joy and fill my wife up and fill my kids up and my friends, like that's good too. And if I can keep pouring into my fitness in a way that uh, I wake up and I can say yes to anything that people want me to do, and oh yeah, I'll keep doing that.
I love that. So it's really the long-term impact for you, right? Long-term impact for you, for your kids, the impact that they have. It's just it does last generations though, regardless. I know legacy seems like a heavy word, but
Yeah.
so you've already made such an impact on people that you've trained, right? And their marriages, their relationships, their abilities to have the confidence in themselves to do things. I'm such a big believer in like fitness helps build confidence, right? Because you go in the gym and you lift something that you think you can't lift, you do hard things, you prove to yourself you can do it, and you can do it over and over again. So that's super
Yeah.
awesome. I love that. I love that. Any final words, Marcus? This was awesome. Thank you just so much for words of wisdom and kind of a little bit of a scope of everything in your life, which I think was really interesting and it's going to people will really, really enjoy.
No, I love the direction this conversation went, and thank you for your enthusiasm, your energy, and for the questions you asked. And yeah,
Awesome. Thank you so much.